All right, so when we go through puberty can have some consequences depending on, do we do it on track with all of our peers? Do we mature earlier than our peers, or do we mature later than our peers? And the consequences have to do with timing, and they have to do by gender. So girls that are early maturing, so they go through puberty, they start, developing breasts, getting their period significantly earlier than their peers. So an early maturing girl tends to not fare very well. They tend to be more unpopular and withdrawn. We see more deviant behaviors with these girls. They tend to have more of a negative body image. They don't usually like themselves, which puts them at risk for having eating disorders. And they show more long-term problems with school, substance abuse, sexual activity, things like that. So when we think about when a girl goes through puberty early, right, and she's the first girl to get boobs, the first girl to have a period, right, to start getting like this lady body, other girls are kind of like, it's kind of weird, right? And the boys are all kinds of freaked out by this, right? Like, oh God, they don't know what to do with boobs yet. So they kind of don't have anyone to turn to. And if you're a girl, if you're 12, 13, or 11 or 12 years old, and you have a lady body on you, who are you going to get attention from? You're going to get attention from older boys. And so if they're the ones giving you attention, then I'm going to go hang out with these older boys who are friends with these older girls, and now I'm in a peer group that is significantly older than me, who may be drinking, smoking, having sex, and I'm going to be kind of pulled into doing these behaviors that I'm not ready for, because I don't have anyone in my own group that kind of accepts me anymore. Now, the opposite is true of boys who are early maturing. Early maturing boys tend to be popular, confident, love their body, because these boys, at 11 or 12, right, they are tall, they are muscular, they've got a little bit of facial hair, maybe a chest hair or two, they've got a deep voice, they're like, hey, all right, they walk into school in 6th grade and they already have this little, sad little mustache, but it's still a mustache, and everyone's like, whoa, look at that guy. All right, in my school, it was a kid named Diego. Man, Diego was like a man in 6th grade, and we were like, whoa. And the boys were like, whoa. All right, you're going to get picked first to be on every team in PE and at recess because, you got the muscles. Like, the boys are like, you're awesome. And the girls are like, ooh, dreamy. So boys that early mature kind of have it made. So now when we go to the late maturing, what we see happening? Well, girls who mature at a later age than their peers actually tend to be more popular, and they tend to be more pro-socially popular. So not the anti-social popular, but the pro-social, everybody, they're friends with everybody, they kind of get along with people, they can go in and out of groups at the school pretty easily, they're more sociable, they're more likely to be school leaders and student government, and they tend to have a much more positive body image. Because the later you mature, the later you kind of get your lady, womanly body, the more time you have to just be a kid and to just focus on school and your likes, and you don't start having, all women know. Like, as soon as you start showing boobs and looking like a lady, you start getting looks from grown-ass men who are nasty, and people commenting on it, and people making you feel all kind of uncomfortable in your own body, and it's weird. Well, the longer you can go without having to experience that, kind of the better it is for you. Right? Now, as a society, I'm sure we could change this eventually if we actually tried, but this is just how it is, right? So these girls get more time to just focus on them before they have to focus on the fact that they're a sexual being and that people are going to treat them that way. Boys, on the other hand, if they mature late, aren't going to fare as well. They tend to be unpopular, they tend to be more anxious, they tend to have more of a negative body image. All right, if you're the last kid to mature, the last boy, right, all the other boys are taller than you, have their deep voices, have bigger muscles, have broader shoulders, and there you are, right, still this little scrawny kid who's like, hey guys, wait up, I want to play too, right? You're just not, no one's really saying like, yeah, let's be friends with that kid. Is it fair? Of course not, but this is just kind of how, how things go. The popular ones tend to be the early maturing boys and the late maturing girls. And if you're an early maturing girl or a late maturing boy, you're more likely to have problems and you're more likely to have a negative body image. All right, so our adolescent moodiness is going to happen just forever. This is just always going to happen when your kid turns into an almost teen into a teen. Living with a 12-year-old now, I can tell you, yes, there is definitely some adolescent moodiness. So why are they so moody? Lots of reasons. One, they experience more negative life events. Now you might be saying, no they don't, they're teenagers. How negative can their life possibly be? Well, it's their perceived negative life events. They perceive events in their life to be more negative than an outside person or an adult would. So to them, the events may be huge. You may not think they're huge, but to them they are, right? They come home crying their eyes out. What's going on? Oh, Bobby dumped me. Who's Bobby? You know Bobby. I loved him. Like, who? Bobby, like the guy you met yesterday. I loved him so much and he dumped me. Like, it's been one day. How can you love him? What's happening? Like, to you, you're like, this is ridiculous. But to that kid, that adolescent, it's a big deal, right? It's a huge deal. That's a negative life event. And they experience more of those kind of perceived negative life events, so they're moodier due to it. They have those stronger neurotransmitter responses to things, which also contributes to the moodiness, right? Everything is huge, happy, or sad, right? Everything's horrible or everything is awesome, right? And it goes big, huge, level 10 on both sides. They've got a lot of kind of daily scripts or daily events that they're happening that just kind of go up and down, right? Something good happens, something bad happens, and now I'm super happy, and now I'm super sad, and now I love this person, now I hate this person, back and forth. And they also feel like they have kind of these cultural scripts, which are ways that we kind of think that you should behave. We give a little more leeway to adolescents acting like this because our cultural script says that adolescents are indeed moody. This same behavior in American teens, wouldn't be acceptable in teens in developing countries where, by the time you're 15, you're married, you have babies, and you're, tilling your own land. So part of it is a cultural script that they're going through. And then they also, they're watching TV, they're watching movies, they're watching, Netflix shows and things, and they're seeing these, kids, quote unquote, doing all these things, and this is how I should act when someone breaks up with me, and this is how you're supposed to behave in a relationship, without, knowing, we know that, the teenager, again in quotes, in that show is really a 26-year-old person playing a teenager. But to the kids, they think, oh, this is how my life should be, and they try to kind of follow those cultural scripts, which can make their life a little more dramatic. So these are our adolescence emotions across the week. As you can see, the middle school compared to the high school. So the high schoolers are going to be, not feeling great at the beginning, and then they really are unhappy Wednesday and Thursday, the middle of the week, and then yay, it's Friday and Saturday, woo, and then Sunday, oh God, go back to school. So we can see big dips here. Now the middle schoolers, we're seeing the same pattern, just not to the same extent quite yet. So you can kind of see the middle schoolers starting to act more like those older kids with their mood swings, but they're just not going to be, they're not as moody as of yet. Although, living with a middle schooler, I want to object to that. Or just be scared of what's coming, I guess. Speaking of which, parent-child relationships during adolescence. There will be a rise in conflict. There just will. Parents and kids are going to knock heads more as they move into adolescence. And this is an adaptive behavior. What does that mean? It means that this is supposed to happen. And it's supposed to happen because the parents have to emotionally distance from the child so that the child can grow up and become a, sustainable individual on their own. And as much as you can say it, like, yeah, that's supposed to happen, like, it hurts. It's hard. It's hard to watch your sweet baby, turning into this crazy person. But it's a way to kind of help to separate those bonds a little bit so that the kid does become more independent and able to, at some point, leave the home and take care of themselves. So there's going to be more psychological distancing. They're not going to turn to the parent as much when they need things. They're going to turn to their friends, especially when they need, companionship, when they need someone to make them feel better. They want to talk with their friends, right? Not just their mom. My my daughter was, in this, we're all stuck at home together, and one of my daughter found out one of her friends is moving this summer, and she's not going to be able to see her since they're not going back to school. And she was just devastated. Like, she was just crying. And I'm in there and I'm trying to calm her down and, saying, like, you can still FaceTime with her. And she just looked at me. She's like, Mommy, I love you and I'm happy you're here for me, but I really wish I had my friends here to talk to. And I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, for two reasons. Because, I'm sad you don't have your friends, but also, I'm not enough for you anymore. Like, tears down my face. But that's, psychological distancing. It's what she's supposed to be doing now. I'm not supposed to like it, but it's what she is supposed to be doing now. And we also see a rise in conflict due to the different views of teen readiness for responsibility, right? Teenagers think they are responsible and should be able to do whatever it is that they want to do, right? And if you don't let them, it's because you don't trust me, right? Well, and the parents are like, no, you're not ready to do anything. You're completely irresponsible. You will die when you leave this house. So those two very different and, neither one of them being correct views, cause that kind of rise in conflict. Most conflict is mild, though. There is still affection. There is still support. They do still need their parents. They do still love their parents, right? They may roll their eyes when they see the parents at their basketball game, but they definitely want you to come to their basketball game, right? They still want you to be there for them. And you need to be there for them, because when they're yelling and screaming at you, it's because you're a safe place for them to do that. Right? Because they know, like, my mom will still love me, right? I can scream and yell at her, but I'll still have, spaghetti tonight for dinner or whatever. The conflict tends to be harder on the parent than on the child. So if the kid comes home and they get in a fight with her mom and there she's yelling and screaming, and she goes up into her room like, I hate you, and she slams the door. And the mom is just like, crying in the kitchen, like, what did I do wrong? Remember when she was a sweet baby and she loved me and she would draw me pictures, and mom's all like falling apart. And the girl's just upstairs, just like doop-a-doop-a-doo, texting her friends, getting on her social media. And she just pops back downstairs a little while later, like, oh, hey, what's for dinner? And the mom's like, okay, so we're not fighting? All right, so I made, chicken. Chicken? You know I'm a vegan now! Run upstairs, slam the door, and the mom's like, oh my god, can I ever talk to this person again? It doesn't really bother the kid, right? The kid's just like, whatever, I'm just going to scream at my parents. But the parent is the one that tends to take on a lot more of the internalized, like, upsetness from it. All right, so nutrition needs in adolescence. The calorie needs are going to increase slightly, especially for boys, because they're continuing to grow. So boys actually are going to need a lot more caloric intake than girls are going to need, because they are growing throughout adolescence. Once a girl hits puberty, gets her period, she's going to be very quickly at her final height and won't really need to be intaking, extra calories at that point. Teenagers do make very poor food choices. You can see by this young gentleman in the picture who's having what appears to be pizza with a side of fries. Yes, excellent food choice there. I don't know, he looks like his name would be like Damien. They don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. They don't get enough dairy in their diet. They don't tend to eat breakfast. They drink a lot of soda and they eat a lot of fast food, right? And all these things that we know we shouldn't do. Now, why this is a problem. So when you're a teen, even into your early 20s, you have this really great metabolism. You can eat all this crap and not seem to gain weight, right? But the problem is that if you keep eating like that, you are going to start to gain weight, and losing it is definitely not as easy as it was back when you were younger. What we want to see is them, having more balanced choices, and eating with their family for one meal a day is really helpful. That's why there's a big push to say, let's have dinner with the family. Because when you eat at home, A, you tend to eat healthier. B, you tend to intake less calories than when you eat out. Right? And you've probably noticed, well, not right now because no one's allowed to go outside, but when you go to restaurants now, a lot of them have the calories like listed next to the food, which is like such a bummer, right? You're just like, oh my God, what? How bad is this? So there's a big difference between, you know, the food you eat at restaurants or at fast food than what you eat at home. So if we can get the kids eating at home more, they're going to make better food choices and we're going to keep them healthier.